here. We'll see if this is happening. Here we go. I'm so happy to see the sun out today. I mean, it's going in and out, but man.
It makes a big difference.
Right? Just like 10 minutes here, half hour there. I do try to take an hour and a half or an hour walk at sunset, but it can be, I mean, even though I'm used to working at home, it can be a little much just being inside all day long.
It is.
I mean, I'm on the same tank of gas.
I had the same thought the other day, and it's a shame because it's so cheap right now. But there's nowhere to go.
Even down here, I was saying to people before, come on down, you know, we'll take a walk on the beach, but now they've closed all the parking lots. So anyway, I'm so glad to be here with you, Wendy, this morning. I know we met a while ago at She Breathes, and you had talked a little bit about using your voice and showing up. And I'm like, ooh, that's somewhere. And even back then, it was over a year ago when I met you. I hadn't really, I maybe dipped a toe, and I hadn't fully come in yet. So before I do Wendy's official bio, what I want to do is, you know, just give my digital marketing tip of the week. So here's the thing, you guys. I'm on a board, and we were going to try to figure out who we were going to have for, or in general, right? Like if you're involved with some kind of place and you need to figure out who's your keynote speaker is going to be. And people like, I'll be your keynote speaker, I'll be your keynote speaker, or you get referrals. How do you figure out who to hire? So this particular, let's do it this way. This particular group, we got some recommendations and we needed to figure it out. And so we went to all of the websites to see who would be a speaker. And so there were some really compelling topics. I thought the topics were fantastic, and I wanted to learn from each and every one of those people. But then, you know, people can be a good writer and maybe not a great speaker, or people can have a great topic, but not be able to speak about it clearly and to take you on that journey that makes you kind of lean in and learn more. So here's what I wanted. I was so grateful because I had gone through Dolores Hirschman's Write Your Talk program, and this was like, you have to do these things. So I wanted to share with anybody who's thinking about, you know, I'd love to be a speaker sometime, maybe, whatever. And if this is your time, if this pause is making you get the things done, maybe this is one of the things you get done. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's hope that I get onto the right one. I think it'll be this one. There's two things I actually wanted to show you here. So a lot of you know that I'm working on a new website through Kajabi, and so I'm still filling things in here. But here's the page that I wanted to tell you about, because we're talking about using our voice and showing up. And I know it is so hard to put yourself out there and to do the me thing. But once it's there, it kind of feels better. So I got this great photo from Jennifer at She Breathes in Walpole, and I love it because I'm wearing my power color as I am today. I have my topics, which are kind of general. I can change any of these. But here's what would make the difference. If you were the person that wanted to be the keynote speaker at this particular conference, I would have liked to have seen you in action. And so if you can put a 3 or a 5 minute clip somewhere, I even went and looked. I spent some time. I looked on YouTube. I looked on Vimeo. I just wanted to see the person and hear their voice. So that was an interesting thing. So I just wanted to tell you, oh, and testimonials, of course, you guys know I'm like always about testimonials. And here, let's see if this works.
Well, Susan, I have a question about the recording. Can I ask you about it?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, because it's funny, I have a speaker page as well, but I have little snippets of recordings, but not live presentations, because the places where I've done the presentations haven't recorded it. So do you think people really have to go out and hire their own person to come record them? What do you recommend?
So good, right? So this one here. I did a talk for the Massachusetts Nursery and Landscape Association. I think it was the end of February. and I had a very inexpensive tripod,
Okay.
and I put my
phone.
I put my phone there. I don't think I even wore, I have a lavalier. Yeah, so I didn't wear my microphone. So it's not the best quality, but it's enough to see how I speak and
Mm-hmm.
interact with people that were
Yep.
asking questions.
Yep.
This one is a little bit different. That was a little different. Always put your testimonials, you guys. Always put your calls to action, and then where you've been featured. So these are places either I've given talks or you can click through and hear me on a podcast. And I know you're doing a lot of podcasting. So make a speaker page. What I'm missing on here, which is on my to-do list, is what they call a speaker one sheet. I guess maybe you know about this, but I learned it through the program, which is something that you can send to people when they're like, I guess it's similar to this page, but it's something you can actually print out and hand to people. So you guys, if you're spending some time working on doing the things, which is what I'm telling people right now in this pause, do the things that you always think you don't have time for, right? Go through your website, make sure you have calls to action, make sure you have testimonials on all of your pages, make sure that your links are all working. I'll be going into these individual things more on the Rise Above Noise group, but I do want to make sure that because we were talking about that today, I kind of wanted to also kind of brag a little bit, if that's okay.
Of course. Of
So
course.
let me do your official bio, Wendy. Oops, I thought I opened it and I didn't, so hang on one sec. Wendy and I are both having some connectivity issues today.
Apologize in advance, but as I said to Susan earlier, everything's a little interrupted these days. So.
And so what just happened to me is I tried to open a PDF and my computer seems frozen. Can you hear me, Wendy?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can see you fine too.
Okay. Okay. So we have Wendy Silver. She is what is your title? The founder, right?
Founder.
President.
I'm a one-woman show, basically. So.
Yeah. Same. President of Beyond the Workplace, LLC. It's a boutique HR consulting company which specializes in employee relations. She is also a commissioner on the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women. She has over 20 years of experience in law and HR. Wendy works with companies at various stages of growth to create workplace cultures that support business growth and employee success. She is passionate about inspiring, promoting, and creating great places. She's an advocate for women and moms who want to strive and thrive in all areas of living and working. She lives not too far from me. She's in Needham, Massachusetts with her husband and 2 teenage children, all very, very cozy at home these days.
Very cozy.
Lots of relationship building. When I asked Wendy what her superpower is, she said it's solving problems. And today we're going to talk about speaking up. Let's talk about Wendy's public speaking journey and like overcoming fear. And I'm just so glad that you're here, Wendy, because we're in a different speaking situation, right? Sometimes people are nervous about getting up in front of people and seeing them and in that energy, but now we're in a whole different dynamic.
Yeah, and it's funny. This dynamic has always been very comfortable for me. I love to have one-on-one conversations, even in small meetings and groups. I was always very comfortable speaking, but ask me to give a presentation or put me on stage, and for years I was terrified, and it really did impact me throughout my personal and professional life. And I really remember as far back as when in college, when that fear, I think, really started, and I didn't take, certain classes in college because of the public speaking requirement or the presentation.
Oh my God, yes.
That the presentation required at the end of the class, I would not take those. So that was a real bummer. I think I missed out on a lot of opportunities that would have maybe made a difference, for me. But I went on to law school, which does have a public speaking component to it. But it was certainly different. But even through my professional life, I mean, I did it when I had to, but I dreaded it, and I
Mm,
lost a lot of sleep
mm.
over it. I didn't, take certain jobs, I think, because I knew it would require me to do a lot of public speaking, or even, turned down opportunities within current positions that I'd had because, they were going to want me to sort of get up, and lead on certain things from a stage perspective. And I just was like, no, I can't do that. And and in part because I had a couple instances where I had panic attacks while public speaking. I mean, I remember doing new employee orientation at one of my jobs, a room full of like new employees, and literally feeling like I couldn't breathe, like I couldn't get the words out. I didn't have enough air. And that's terrifying.
Wow.
And when that happens, you no longer just are, anxious and nervous about the public speaking, but you're worried that that's going to happen and you're going to like pass out in front of all these people. And so then it just creates this vicious cycle. And so it really got worse for me actually as I got older, until about 3 years ago when I kind of decided I had to take that on.
So when you decided you had to take that on, how did you overcome those things?
Yeah, so a couple of things were going on for me at that time. One is that I had left my current regular full-time HR role to start my own business. And I knew that if I was going to be successful, I was going to have to get out there and not only talk about myself, my experience, but, sell myself. And it's hard to do. And I knew I would have, but I knew I'd have to do it to be successful. Also at that time, my daughter was, I have to talk softly. I don't want her to hear me talking about her, but she started having some, telling me she had to give a presentation in English class and how she started getting really panicky. And I saw that starting to happen to her. And anybody with teenagers knows you can't really tell a teenager what to do. But I knew that I could be a good example to her and at least start to take on my own fear so that maybe one day she would, feel comfortable doing the same for herself. And it was also at the time of, after the 2016 election, where it became very clear to me that regardless of whatever your political affiliations are, it was a time for people to be able to speak up about things that were important to them and that they believed in. So all those things were kind of going on. And I thought, I'm going to take this on. And I stumbled upon the Speaker Sisterhood, which is a group of public speaking clubs for women. And I wanted to join one of them to kind of help me deal with this. And unfortunately, there wasn't one in my area. So the CEO said, well, but you could start one and you could be the leader. And I thought, well, that's a little insane because I'm not a public speaking expert. I don't think I'm like, I don't think I have experience to lead on this topic. And she said, well, the leader is really the facilitator, and you facilitate these meetings, and it's an opportunity for people to speak on different topics, and there's a little curriculum. And as the leader, you'll have an opportunity to do so much more speaking that it will really, benefit you in that way as well. And after initially saying no, I basically decided that, I wasn't going to let this be another thing that I didn't do because I was afraid, and I was just going to go for it. And so I did. And that was a huge help for me, because I think part of coming to terms with the fear around public speaking is changing the story in your mind, about what you can do and what you can't do. And, they talk about the myth of the expert. And the reality is, if you know something that somebody else doesn't know that could help them, then you should share it. And then you are an expert, whatever expert means. So it's kind of reframing, your thinking around what a speaker is, and that we all have a story, and that, that's helpful. If that's helpful to one person, it's worth sharing. So really just reframing my thoughts around public speaking was huge for me, but also finding that community, finding people who will support you, who will help, listen to you practice, which is huge. And I think that's why the Speaker Sisterhood also was so great for me, because I consider public speaking a little bit like, it's like exercise. You kind of dread doing it. And especially if you haven't done it in a while, like it's hard to get those muscles moving. But when you do it consistently over and over again, it becomes a lot easier. And public speaking is the same way. You have to continue to do it and find those opportunities to do it in order to make it easier. It's not that you're not going to ever have any anxiety. What I've also learned is a little fear and anxiety is not a bad thing, right? Because it keeps your adrenaline going, but you don't want it to stop you. So it's learning to manage it, which I do with a lot of breathing, meditation, power poses before I go out and give a presentation, just to really relax my body. That has been a huge help to me, because a lot of people get this fight or flight response when they go on stage to public speak. And that's what I think happened to me when I had those panic attacks. And so the meditation and the breathing really just helps my body learn to just like settle down, and I can control it a lot better, which is also knowing that I can do that makes it a lot less scary.
So I have to unpack that a little bit. That
It
was
a lot.
so much good. I was feverishly writing notes. So here's what I took from it, because I'd love to like maybe go into each of these things a little deeper. You were talking about like the top, like I think expert, or you said something expert, and in my life, right, we call it's imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to get up and talk about this thing? There are so many people that talk about it. Why would you want to hear me talk about my topic? And I work on that every day.
Yeah. And the thing about,
go ahead.
I would say the thing about public speaking is when we're on stage, we think it's about us, but it's not about us. It's about the audience. So when you kind of reframe that and realize this is about helping them, they're not, no one's there to judge you. Like they're looking for some, information or skills or resources. And so I deal with that sort of imposter syndrome, myth of the expert thing by kind of trying to remind myself, like, this isn't about you.
Well, you know what? That's it. Funny that you say that, because that is my big idea. And what I speak on is digital marketing as an active service, because so many people are like, I don't want to be out there, talking about myself, talking about this. I don't want to bother people in their inbox. But really, that one piece of advice that you can give people, or that one skill, or that one piece of support is actually a service. And so that if you don't go out there and let people know that you're the answer to their problem, then you're almost being selfish, right? You're like giving into your ego, but it is scary. It's like, what are people going to think? And am I dressed right? And is my hair right? I mean, it's just all the things.
Yeah, it is scary. It is scary.
It is, but it's also an ego thing. So for the people, right, who are like into the mindset thing, we know that what we think isn't real, it's what we tell ourselves, right? So.
Absolutely. And, like I said, if people take away one thing from, a half hour talk, it was a success. I mean, you're right. Like, I really believe that. I think if people learn one thing, if it was a good use of their time, it's worthwhile. And I also just love stories. I love hearing other people's stories. So, I kind of feel like people, if you share, because it's helpful, it inspires you. So if you can do that for other people, it feels good.
So true. And so another thing is, you had mentioned your big idea, or what it is that you do there. I got into digital marketing way back when, because as an introvert, I'm not as easily engaged in phone conversations. I want to make sure my message is clear. Mm-hmm. Digital marketing started way back in emails, just regular emails, even before Constant Contact, although I was an early adopter of Constant Contact. What I loved was that I could compose an email and leave it and think about it and then go back and edit it. And so when it went out, I felt really good about that. And I found that that's how I feel about the talks that I give now, is that I've worked it and I've worked it and I've worked it. I've got my big idea. I know that that I'm giving the message. Digital marketing is an active service, and here's how, right? Depending on what the topic is, here's how email, here's how social, here's how search optimization. But being prepared was key for me to be able to get up.
I can't underscore that enough, because I've seen people who have a real fear of public speaking so strong that they can't even practice the things they actually have to go do. And I think that's, I think it's really hard. I think that practice is what gives you the confidence, because even if that moment you kind of lose your train of thought, your brain kind of kicks in, and there's this muscle memory with the speech that kicks into the preparation. I think is really, really important. And also, what I have found, it's really important to think about things that matter to you, things that you love, that you feel passionate about, because people can see that, and that is what creates the connection with the audience. Part of the reason I think my fear got so bad in earlier on in my professional life is that I was asked to speak on topics that I didn't even know that much about, or certainly didn't love. They weren't my passion. And so that became very hard. And so it didn't always go that well, I don't think, because I wasn't able to, make the connection that I should have. And so now I really encourage people that even if you're asked to speak on a topic that might not be your bread and butter or your love and passion, find a way to integrate some of the stuff that you really love and that lights you up into that talk, because that will carry over to the audience.
Right. Because, that's that saying that they say people will forget what you say, but they won't forget how you made them feel.
Exactly.
Hold them a little bit closer in with a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I could talk all day long about email, click-through rates, open rates, return on investment, funnels, but people would fall asleep. But if I start telling you my story of how I became, and interested in all of this, then, right? And then if you want to do the deep work, but you're really there to inform. And like you said, it becomes easier. And the community support, I feel, is a big part of it. You talked about speaker sisterhood. I know that many people have their accountability groups or masterminds or accountability buddies, and to really lean into your community.
Absolutely. And those are all, the mastermind groups, the networking groups. Anytime you have an opportunity to even speak for a minute about yourself and what you do, that's public speaking. If you can do that regularly, all of that helps, I think, overcome sort of any fears that you kind of have. So I think all of that stuff is great to do. And then, but also just to also, be honest with people. If you're really nervous about public speaking, tell people, either get up there and say, I'm really nervous. My heart is racing, and people will smile at you, and that will already make you feel better. And so I kind of said, you got to own it. You got to, be honest with people. And I think that goes a long way to sort of taking away the power of the fear.
Right. So if we talk about what you just said, your heart is racing,
yeah,
your stomach is all in knots, whatever it is,
yeah,
kind of the same feeling as like right before you jump in a pool or right before you do something really exciting. And so if you look at those physical sensations, and instead of saying, I can't do this, I'm too frightened, like recognize that those means change is happening. Yeah. There's going to be a transition, and you've got this. And what's the worst that can happen,
exactly.
Right? You forget what you're going to say. You have to look at your notes, or, something lies flat and people don't, but people are very supportive.
People are very supportive. They're very kind, and people want to see you, succeed most of the time. So you kind of have to keep that in perspective. Yeah.
After I put this talk together, Digital Marketing is an Active Service, I wanted to present it to one of my networking groups. And I had all of my cards and my slides, and I had the microphone. I was going to record myself, and I was so excited. I had practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And I got up there, and my cards were falling, and I was just like, it was a mess, and it was not how I had envisioned it. And I was nervous. But the next day I was to give the same talk to a different group of people, got rid of the cards, and I felt so good about it, right? I probably missed some of the points, and I'm a scientist, right? I'm a scientist, and I want to hit all the points, but it was okay because people got the big idea. They got that message. I keep freezing.
Right, and you learn. I offer a workshop on what's your story, and it's about public speaking and overcoming your fear. And also I talk a little bit about content and preparation. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. You have to do these things enough so that you know what works for you. And so some are going to go better than others, but it's, you can't look at it like a failure. Even if it feels that way, you have to look at it as, you've learned something through that it's going to make it next time. And so, that's just part of the journey.
Yeah, each time. And then when I'm feeling really brave, I'll have my husband look at a recording
Yeah, yeah.
And not be, honest feedback. My accountability group, same thing. Give me honest feedback. At first I might feel a little
Yep.
attached to what I've done, but I'm looking for the feedback. So it was like,
Yeah,
instead of standing
absolutely.
with your legs crossed, it was like you said, the power, just forward. And now I remember to do that. The first
Yeah.
time I didn't remember. I wasn't,
Right.
crouching in, I was crouching out. So
Yep.
let's talk about another thing that you brought up, which was opportunities. And we talked about it a little bit, networking groups, whether it's your 60-second introduction or you've got like a 5-minute spotlight. What are some of the opportunities you think that people can take even now in our new normal?
I think, now what we're doing, going live on Facebook for a minute just to say, hey guys, how are you doing? How are you doing? Just taking little steps to put yourself out there. They're all forms of public speaking. And I think that in this day and age right now, you know, video is certainly a way to take little actionable steps to push yourself out of your comfort zone. For some people, it's even just sharing your video, right, on a call. A lot of people don't want to do that. Like, they don't want to be seen, and maybe because they didn't shower that day, and I get that for sure. But some people don't want to do that anyway, So it's kind of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone step by step, and it all makes a difference, and it all kind of is part of that journey, a public speaking journey.
Yeah, and to be able to get out there and have those opportunities. Beth is on Facebook Live, and she's saying that she's learning that she really does like speaking, and she's a wonderful speaker. She's not sure how she would do with a more formal, larger group, but she's saying, she's recognizing that being nervous means she's excited about speaking.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to think, how do I get rid of this fear? How do I get rid of this fear? And then I kind of had this epiphany, fear is normal. If you don't have fear, it's a sign of brain damage. So fear is not bad for us. It's actually good for us, as long as we don't let it stop us from doing the things that we need to do to feel, authentic and fulfilled. So,
Yeah, that fear thing is interesting. I went to a mindset retreat with the Bold Heart group a couple years ago, and I remembered that whole thing. It blew my mind. I think it was maybe something from Abraham Hicks or something, but they were talking about fear is not real, right? Because it's never in the moment. It's either you're fearful of something, and then, so it's not anything tangible. And they showed that fantastic video. If you guys haven't seen it, it's Will Smith, who I adore, talking about the night before he went skydiving. He was videotaping himself, how frightened he was. He was so it's the fear. And then he did it. And then he was like, what was I even afraid of? Like, that fear ruined my night.
I know. Well, exactly. And the society, there's a lot out there too, especially for women, about, be fearless females, and I actually don't gravitate to that, because fearless isn't realistic. It's not about being fearless. We're always going to have some fear. For me, it's more about facing your fear and dealing with it so that it doesn't hold you back. So for me, that's a lot of the changing the story in my mind about what it means. The fear is not bad for us. We've just got to learn to manage it so that it doesn't stop us.
I don't know why. I'll just say this out loud. I'm trying to think. I'm like, oh, fear. Yeah, my son was so still very deathly afraid of bugs and spiders. And I love them.
Really?
And so I used to try to desensitize him by catching him, and I'd be like, look at this cool pattern on the back, and it really didn't work. And he got called up for one of those hypnotizing things in high school one time, and I'm like, go tell him to get rid of your spider fear. I think he's still afraid of spiders. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well,
This has been so
fun. I'm not a huge fan of spiders either.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're over there. I do like,
right.
Oh my God, my dog caught this huge wasp just now, big, 1.5 inches, white and black. Anyway, I could talk all day. As I want to be mindful of our time, as we're wrapping up, tell me more about the people that you work with. Are you still doing Speaker Sisterhood too?
No, so I no longer do Speaker Sisterhood, but I am excited to announce that I'm launching a podcast called The Power Hour, and it's POWHER, and it's really a podcast for women who are striving and thriving in their quest to do it all, and I put that all in quotes because we all know that that's a little bit of a loaded term. And it's really, you know, about sharing stories of from women and about women, about what, you know, we have so much to learn from each other. And I'm hoping to sort of spotlight a lot of stories about how women are out there doing a lot of different things, and you know, how we can kind of support each other. And it doesn't mean, you know, we're going to talk to men too, because I think that there are important allies for us, but it's really about spotlighting women in an effort to really lift each other up and learn from one another and to inspire each other to take action.
That's awesome. Well, good luck with that. This is a great time to
Yeah.
start a podcast,
Yeah.
because why not?
Yeah, definitely. And so you can check that out at the powerhourpodcast.com. Just launched the website this week, actually, and hope to upload my first episode, or at least my intro episode, by early next week. So stay
That's
tuned for that.
awesome.
And then I also have my my business website, beyondtheworkplacehr.com, and I work with companies, various stages of growth, and support them in some of their employee relations needs, and also employment practices and strategy. And then I also work one-on-one with women, actually, who are looking to make career job changes and helping them strategize how to make that happen. I don't really consider myself a career coach, but it's really like, you know, very hands-on, you know, let's come up with a plan to get you that new job or in this new industry, and really kind of make that happen. So.
Oh, that's really good. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people who maybe were laid off or furloughed and are saying at this point in their life, like,
Yeah.
so you know that job I just got furloughed from? I actually hated it.
Right. I didn't like it anyway. And exactly. So I actually work with a lot of women and help them repurpose their resumes, prepare for interviews, to market themselves to a new, you know, position, a new industry even. So that's been a lot of fun too. And I think, and now is a great time to start, you know, thinking about some of that for people who are looking for new opportunities. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's fantastic. So the best place for people to get in touch with you is on Beyond the Workplace, Power. I guess I'll put both of the links in there.
Or you can also, you can email both websites, but also you can email me directly at Wendy@beyondtheworkplacehr.com.
Okay, cool. I'll put all of that in the
Awesome.
notes. I am so glad that you came here today.
Me
Enjoy the rest of the
too.
day. Get out and get some fresh air,
I
some
will.
exercise.
I absolutely will. You as well. And stay healthy and
Same,
sane.
same. Thanks, Wendy.
Yeah.
Talk
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye.